Hey guys, so I'm going to do one of my traditional talking videos today, as well as my 365. I've kind of decided to not suspend these videos, but limit them. One, because I don't want to inundate you guys with videos, and I'm already posting one a day, but also because I don't have a ton of time, and I don't have as many ideas as I used to, because I've been doing these for 3 or 4 years now. So it's hard to have that much content, quite honestly. That being said, I was looking for an audition video on my YouTube the other day, actually yesterday, and I couldn't find one that was just like about auditions. I could find ones about pre screenings, I could find ones about like the lead up, but I really couldn't find Auditions 101. So, I'm going to do that today. Some of you guys have asked for stuff about the auxiliary instruments and more in depth than my piccolo crash course video on piccolo, and also just one about alto. And I definitely want to do those for you guys. But as I said, I'm going to be doing these videos a little bit less than I had been. Definitely not once a week. Probably more like one or two a month. So that I'm not constantly posting videos. So yeah. Also, those of you guys who don't know, I hope you have, because I've been doing this for 2 weeks now. I'm posting a video a day of me playing. Please send me suggestions of pieces that you guys want me to play. I'm open to etudes. I'm open to if you want to write me something that's a minute and a half or less. I'm open to solos, concertos, things for alto flute, things for piccolo, like whatever you want, I will try to work it in. So yeah. Anyway, auditions. um, so we're in October, so you guys are starting to really buckle down, figure out which schools you want to apply to, and really start planning. And in my pre-screening video, I've talked about this a lot, but the first thing you want to do once you figure out your schools is look up all the requirements, write them down, and figure out how you can pick pieces that overlap as much. Also, make sure that you know the deadlines for the pre-screenings and the deadlines for the actual applications. If they do have a pre-screening, that'll be your application deadline. If they don't, it'll probably be a little later, but make sure you have every single date in your head. I legitimately missed one, and that's how I ended up at Toronto, is because I didn't realize that I had a pre-screening deadline for a certain school, missed it, didn't apply, and then had to add Toronto to my list because I was missing a school. Turned out to be a very happy mistake, but like, don't do that. It's not good. I had a chart with all of the requirements, and then I went through it with my teacher, and we figured out what could overlap the most. Make sure that you are overlapping your repertoire as much as you can. You don't want to be practicing 10 pieces going into auditions. You just don't. And also try to overlap your pre-screening and your audition repertoire. It's not worth it to learn new things between December and February. It's just not going to suit you, and it's not going to do you any good in your auditions. So overlap your repertoire as much as you can. I have a pre-screening video. I will link that. We're just going to talk about what you should be doing for your auditions and also for your applications and everything like that, now that you have your repertoires set. Definitely create kind of a goal schedule for practicing. Base it on whether you have pre-screenings or not. If you do, obviously it has to be a little bit more accelerated because you have to be able to submit by December 1st. If you don't, then you can give yourself a little bit more time and have more steps along the way. But make sure you're doing some mock auditions for friends, family, whatever you can. Even try to set up something in a local church where you can play through your audition repertoire if that's possible. But try to play as much as you can. And also make sure that you have some check-ins. If you don't normally have a teacher, I really suggest that you contact one and get a few lessons, especially in December if you don't have pre-screenings, just so you can check in and make sure that you're on the right track. I honestly suggest that everyone has a teacher when they're applying to music school because it's really, really difficult to prepare yourself properly without a teacher. And they're the only ones that really know what you're going through. Every single music teacher should have gone to music school at some point, and if they don't, then you probably don't want to study with them, honestly. So having a teacher to really guide you and help you with your practice will be really important. In terms of your application, because you're applying to music school, some of your essays aren't going to be as important, but don't write them off. Make sure you do them, make sure that they're well written and that they really apply to your life and that they're really show who you are as a musician and who you are as a person, because when you audition, they're auditioning you as a person as well as a musician. And I think as music majors, we focus so much on the audition, and that's great, and that's what you should be doing, but the written portion of the application is actually really important as well, because you can be accepted musically and not academically, and that means you're not accepted. While the requirements for academics are usually lower for music school, they still are rigorous, and they still do see your essays, and they still do look at your application as a whole. So don't focus so much on the audition that you don't do the written part, because that can kill your application. I know a lot of people who've gotten in musically and then didn't get in academically, and so couldn't go to a school that they really wanted to go to with its teacher that they really wanted to study with. Also a thing to think about is if you haven't taken lessons with the people that you're applying to study with, try to do that in the next few months. One, because you want to know whether they're going to work out, and if you go and take a lesson and it doesn't work out at all, then you can write it off the list and don't have to worry about applying and paying that fee. But also because that way they get to know you and they have a better image of you rather than just you auditioning. Because teachers will remember who came, how they worked with you, how you worked with them, and it'll give them a better impression of how you'll fit into their studio than just a 5-minute audition. Getting yourself into their brain is really, really helpful. And I'm going to touch a little bit on repertoire selection. I know I talk about it in the pre-screening thing, and obviously you have to follow the guidelines. That's always the first thing. But don't overreach. You obviously want to give the best impression and everything like that, but you want to play things that are within your ability. Things that show off your skill and things that show off your technique and things that show off your sound. But just because you're very advanced for a high schooler or even just very advanced for an undergrad doesn't mean that you should be playing the things that are at the maximum capacity for your technical ability. Maybe scaling back one step or two can give you a better impression and you'll pull it off better in the audition. There's a pretty infamous story that floats around Jacobs about a girl who came in to her undergrad audition playing Chandelinos, which is one of the hardest pieces in the flute repertoire, technically. And she was an undergrad, and one of our professors basically told her that she shouldn't be playing that piece yet. And she did get in, and she is a fantastic player, and everything like that, but she put herself through a very, very scary situation by picking repertoire that was a little bit farther out of her technical wheelhouse than it should have been. And honestly, she's so good that had she picked a piece that was slightly easier, she could have gotten in with absolutely no problem. And I mean, obviously she did. So it was fine, but don't put yourself in that situation just because you might be able to play it in theory. Doesn't mean you should audition on it. Audition repertoire isn't the hardest thing you've ever played. It's the thing you can play the best. And if it's a little bit simpler, but you can play it like no one else can, that's going to be much more impressive than going in and playing a piece that you just can't play yet. Or can barely play yet. So yeah, that's kind of a brief audition overview. When we get closer to actual auditions, I'll talk about how that'll work, but I think this is a good idea on applying, and the things that you should be doing right now in October, and check out the pre-screening video, and please check out my 365 videos. I am really interested to see how this project is going to turn out because it's going to be a year of my life. And let me know what you guys want me to play for that. And I will see you later on today for that video.